Marco Bizzarri is one of the most celebrated and sought-after CEO of the fashion industry, thanks to a spectacular and quick turnaround of Gucci, and thanks to his reputation of a very decent human being. Marco has a sharp, brilliant mind. He is fast, he is fun, he is Italian, and he's very tall, and he never sleeps. In 2014, after becoming one of the stars of the then-called Gucci Group, for bringing Stella McCartney to profitability and for growing Bottega Veneta past the 1 billion mark, and after a brief but effective role as CEO of the newly created couture and leather goods division at Kering, he was asked by his boss, Mr. Pinault, to help saving Gucci from a slow but steady decline. Marco came along, he listened, he studied the people at his disposal within the company, and discovered an amazing hidden gem. He quickly decided to take the risk and give the then non-star designer, who had been with Gucci for 12 years in various design positions, the helm of the brand creativity. Together with Alessandro Michele, the brilliant creative director of Gucci, he has not only saved the brand from oblivion, but he has brought it back to its lost status of one of the most desired fashion brands on the planet, whilst in the process growing its sales to record levels during a time of general flatness and decline. I'm delighted to welcome to SHOWbiz the twice awarded the British Fashion Council International Business Leader Award, and my long-lost colleague, the President and CEO of Gucci, Marco Bizzarri. Marco Bizzarri, welcome to SHOWstudio. Thank you very much for being here. I've read a lot and listened to many of your interviews, and one of the things that I prefer are your quotes. And so I would like to start from one of those. And you famously once said, if I make a mistake and I get fired for that, I can deal with it. What I could not deal with is to get fired because of a mistake that someone else made me do. Yes. Can we explain to us what you meant?
Yes, at the very end, I think that in anything that you do, especially in business, but I think as well in personal life, I mean, you need to take responsibility of what you do. And counting on other people's decision, I think, is the best way to fail. Something else that I think is very relevant to me is, especially in today's world, I mean, I think that the most important thing is better to ask for forgiveness than for permission, in the sense that if you always look for consensus, at the very end, either you end up in not doing things, or doing compromises. And in today's world of business, you need to take a stance. It could be political, it could be aesthetic, it could be anything. But I think it's finished the moment of the kind of a marketing gimmick strategy in business. I think what we try to do in Gucci is always to try to follow our passion. And if you want to follow your passion, I think you really need to follow what you think, and not asking to everybody what they think. Otherwise, the message become diluted as well.
That's very clear, and I couldn't agree more. However, I would like to explain this. You said not asking others what they think, but then one of the reasons that you keep winning awards and you're so well respected, apart from the figures, is that you listen a lot, that you include the people in the decision making. So, do you choose who to listen to?
No, you know, there are moments in the life cycle of a brand. At the very beginning, when I joined Gucci, the matter was not democracy, in the sense that if you want to make a turnaround, if you want to do it quick, you cannot look for consensus. You need to take a decision, and you cannot blame other people if something is going wrong. So it's you that you take a decision, of course, together with the creative director, because he's the other part of the puzzle. In that case, we said clearly to everybody, even from the regions, I mean the geographical regions, I mean, we take the decision, you just follow. We don't want to spend too much time in involving you in the decision-making process. Then, after 12, 18 months, as an example, when everything was clear in terms of strategy, in terms of aesthetic, in terms of value that we wanted to share with the company, then we empowered a lot people below. And where I went a little bit away from the decision-making process, because I have a team that is amazing, it's fantastic, but that was the right moment to do it, where to leverage with the brain and the competence of other people. So I don't think there is just a rule. I think it depends a lot from the moment in time when you take a decision, and you need to be flexible enough when you do this kind of management decision to understand where the company is. So now we are in the moment where if I want to keep on growing as a company, I cannot rely just on a decision-making process that started from the top, but I need to push down the decision-making process and making sure that my team is empowered to take decisions. So I attend much less meetings now than in the past, because if I am present, there's a tendency to wait for my influence too much. Then of course, maybe there are decisions that maybe are not exactly the one that I would have taken, but it's part of the game, and not necessarily that they are going to be wrong. They could be even better than the one that I was going to take. So you need to accept that if you want to keep on growing at a certain pace. Because if you want to grow at 2%, 3% as a company, I start controlling again everything until the last detail. But in today's world, what we see in the industry, there's a complete polarization of companies. There are some companies that are growing very, very fast, very successful, and some companies that are falling down. And because I want to stay on the first one,
on the fast-growing ones, yeah.
And the reason of the success of Gucci is very much, driven by this way of working, this passion that we have, this authenticity, by maintaining a lot of humility, I think, that is part of the value that we share all the time with all the employees. I need to make sure that this way of working and management is less control freak than in the past and more empowering people. Because today, in today's world, we have so many information, so many data, and if we start looking at the data and looking at the data to find the right decision, we are lost. There are too many information in the world. So I think the emotional side of the decision-making process is becoming more and more important going forward.
That's very interesting. I mean, you probably answered 5 of my next questions in one very clever or 2 statements. But so for me, one of the most interesting things that you've done, and everybody knows that we've been colleagues, so I've known Gucci before and I've known you in your other jobs, but is how you managed to quickly turn around the actual culture of a company that is huge. What, 15,000 people? How many?
Yeah, 13,000 people, and like direct and indirect more 50,000. So in total, 65,000.
And hence my next question is, when you say, it took some time, but then I empowered a fantastic team of executives. So not all of them you chose because they were already there. Some probably left. Some you had to also make them choose you. So can we say that now the people that are there and they're in command believe in your culture, in what you believe it is, what it takes to be a great leader?
You should ask the question to
the team. But I want to.
My impression is that, first of all, I didn't change anybody apart one person. Of course, I chose Alessandro, but the position was vacant, so I didn't, decision.
You had to
rationalize. And then of the management team, I just changed one single person, and all the others they were present. It's true that it was a specific moment that allowed me to take certain decisions because, first of all, I had a lot of experience already. I was very well respected in the group. So I was not an unknown CEO coming to Gucci. I was part of the Kering group for a long time with a lot of support from François-Henri Pinault.
Yeah, with 2 successful previous CEO roles.
Exactly. So, and that, of course, the company was not doing particularly well, so people in the company that were willing to accept changes. That is not always the case when the company is successful, because why you should change something that's going well? It's not natural.
Don't fix it if it's not broken.
Exactly. So the idea, and also I had enough experience to manage a big company like Gucci, because I went through Stella first, that was tiny, then a Bottega that was a little bit bigger. So I had different positioning, different people, different culture. So it was the right moment for me to start managing Gucci. Maybe 5 years ago, 5 years earlier, it would not be the case. So everything is like a kind of a puzzle that all the pieces went together at the same time. So I think there's a certain dose of luck on what happened. I mean, finding and meeting Alessandro has been completely unexpected. It was not in any radar of the candidates, Alessandro. So the team was willing to accept the change. It was willing to follow me because of my previous experiences, so kind of a track record of success. And I think today is the team that we have. I think is very strong. Is very has a common view, and we are very much sharing what we do. Recently, I made a big change in the organization, like 3 months ago. That again, nobody was expecting. But I felt that there was a moment where the company structure and process became too much control freak. That's typical of the human, personalities, in the sense that when you are successful and the company becomes bigger and bigger, you feel that you're losing the control of what's happening. So instead of continuing to do what you were doing before, you brought you to the success, you tend to ask questions all the time and to control any single activity because you think that you're losing the knowledge of what's happening. That is exactly what we cannot do if we want to keep on growing and keeping the reason why we were successful from the beginning.
And how did you manage not to have that happen?
I changed the person, the structure, and I reallocated all the activities to other people of the committee. So I didn't add anybody else, and because what I'm seeing in the organization and in today's way of working is that despite the kind of responsibility that you have hierarchically, what is key is that people work well together. Because everything is crossed. I mean, a communication campaign is going to touch product, it's going to touch Windows, it's going to touch everything. So people, they need to know that, I mean, of course, they are experts in a specific function, but they need to work with the others. And the way in which they agree in the process and the decision making should be something that is due to the fact that is winning the one that has more knowledge and leadership instead of just it's me because I'm the king of the function.
Because I've got the title.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that is the kind of idea that I want to push forward. And to go back to your question in terms of it was difficult, takes a lot of time, etc. Of course, changing culture is the most difficult thing. And especially when I joined Gucci, what I felt there was a kind of a fear of making mistake and fear of, as a culture as a whole, it was not,
it was managed by fear.
It was managed by fear. It was not. It was managed by empowerment.
Authority,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, the very first days, what I try to do is like to say, people, you know what? You're not saving lives. You can create a better life because I mean, of course, we are in an industry where we can give a lot of happiness. But you're not saving lives.
Yeah,
so relax in the sense that take things with a little bit of distance. You are working in an amazing industry and enjoy what you do, because if you're able to enjoy what you do, the kind of creativity that is spread out is much faster and much bigger than the one that you could have being threatened in an angle because I mean you're not reaching the results, and the results and the figures are a consequence of strategies, not vice versa. There are so many ways of managing company, but if you go in a company, you start looking at the data, and the data are not good, then you start cutting people and changing processes just for the sake. In an industry like ours, where the brand and the equity is much more important than the cost. If you look at any strategy written in any book of the industry, you can be either leader in cost, or leader in differentiation. And we are leader in differentiation. Of course, we are looking at cost, but that is not the driver, cannot be the driver in our industry. The margin that we have are enormous because we sell something that is not just a product. We sell a dream, we sell something that you really want to buy into it. To do so is something very linked to emotion and not to rationality.
But you're very successful, and we all know, we all seen the amazing results of Gucci, term after term after term. So now I guess you can sit in the executive committee at Kering level and say whatever you want, and they will listen to you. But to go and say something like this at the beginning, even if you were very well respected, and I remember when I was still there, you were, the one to always put ahead. I mean, how could you sit there and say we can't look at cost? That's not what we need to do to grow.
No, I didn't say that we cannot look at cost. What I said is that if you look at the two drivers, where we can learn, well, especially in a brand like Gucci, everybody knows Gucci. What I realized when I joined Gucci, when you touch a button, it's immediately it's worldwide.
Yeah.
When I was at Bottega Veneta, I was shouting like crazy. Nobody was listening because it was a completely different brand. In Gucci, it's impressive the power of the brand. So
it has even become a word, right? I feel Gucci.
Yeah, I feel Gucci, or Guccified. And
Guccified,
but
yes.
the point is very much about that. Is it depends according to the brand where you are in. And everybody in Gucci was just waiting. People, I mean, working in the company for like 20 years, they were just waiting to the company to go back to the previous, moment of glory. And so it was easy. It was easy in the sense that the company has such an history, such a beautiful archives, and so many outstanding values. And the beauty of the change is the fact that when we start discussing with Alessandro, we never spoke about millennium. We never spoke about what is going outside. We always decided to do what we liked and why we wanted to do it. The sense that before deciding what we wanted to do, we really wanted to say, okay, why we wake up in the morning, we go to the office, which is the reason why you want to spend time with other people. Yeah. It's all about respect, happiness, joy, and then to do it, to make it happen, is leading by example. Because changing culture is not a mandate. It cannot be a mandate. I cannot send an email to my employees saying, be happy, respect, change culture, objective. No, it's very much traveling everywhere and showing that what you say is exactly the way in which you behave. So smiling, and again, that is something that you need to have it. You have it or you don't.
It comes from the top, though. I mean,
yes,
if
exactly.
you're not like that, they will not believe it.
Correct, exactly, and exactly, because one of the main reasons why I hired Alessandro was not just because of the talent that is much bigger than I ever expected, but because the person is an amazing person. The person that you want to talk to, go out for dinner, to hang out, and then because for me the culture was the most important thing that I wanted to change, because from there I could have built the business and the strategy and create this sense of respect, and then fostering creativity that from the very beginning was the objective of the change. Again, if you go back to the early years of fashion was all about creativity. All the business-related structure came afterwards and became even predominant versus the creativity, because the companies became so big and so enormous, so the marketing structure became more important than the creative people. And we see that in many examples, especially in some competitors. And the more you go in that direction, and despite the size, because everybody's saying, it's easy to do that in a startup, in a big company it's not easy. But if you think about it better, the power of putting together this behavior in a big company like Gucci, if you're able to do so, the power of 13,000 people compared to a startup, I mean, we have the money, we have the people, we can attract the talent.
That's what you're showing.
So that is enormous. So the competitive advantage you can get is so enormous. The point is just how we are able to fuel that. It is a never-ending activity. Because when you think that you're there, you go down.
Yeah,
so,
when you think you're done, it's
exactly.
when you have to start.
So you need to make sure that this inflection point doesn't happen. So challenging the status quo, pushing people in a nice way, but make sure that they know that it's never enough. It's never enough.
But what fascinates me about you especially is that you come from a time like me where we were taught about the DNA, you have to be consistent, etc. I mean, I grew up in the marketing side. Absolutely. And you grew up in the business side, but you started in marketing, right?
Yeah, I started in consulting.
Yeah. With this, and then you are one of the few, because I tend to call us, or my peers in age, the dinosaurs of the fashion industry that are ruining the fashion industry. You are one of the few that accepted the change also of the consumer behaviors, the fact that the digital era brought more freedom in the way we want to consume and use fashion. But again, it's not I mean, it's not that easy to convince the world, and it wasn't at the beginning, that Gucci was something and then one day it's completely different. And I agree with you that you say we're a big machine, we have the money, the people, the power. But I also remember at the beginning everybody was like, what's that?
It's true, so true.
And then you said, I don't care what they think.
No, you know, going back to the beginning of your question, you are very, very right. I remember, I mean, like, until 5-6 years ago, I remember when I was giving an interview and I was checking any single word afterwards of the journalist, and I was so angry if something was not exactly what I was saying, because I mean, when position was going not in the right direction. Then I realized that today's world is eating information at a pace that even if you say something that doesn't make any sense, it's going to be forgotten in 2 days. So it's more important to create content that is overall in line with the brand mantra, with the brand positioning, than staying there and waiting for months, etc., instead of connecting. The way in which you communicate and you connect and you engage with the customer today is so different from the past. And luckily, we have the possibility today with Gucci to attract the best talents and young kids that are working in our digital space.
Everybody wants to work for you.
Yeah, but from a creative standpoint, exactly. At the beginning, I couldn't attract anybody. Nobody wanted to come to Gucci at the very beginning because
they were scared.
They didn't know. Our industry is very small, and everybody knew that in Gucci the culture was not the right culture. I mean, people were threatened, and that's something that you don't want to work for a company like this. Today, I have tons of CVs on my desk, and the best talents in the industry want to come and work.
Yeah, I even thought about coming back.
More than welcome.
What happened in the creative team? I mean, did Alessandro manage to keep the team he was working with? Are they the same people? What happened there? That's one thing that we never talk about.
Same team. It's the same team, the same people. It's much bigger now because he put a lot of new kids, new energy, new students. So the team is much wider now than in the past. But the people managing the categories are exactly the same people that we had before.
Amazing.
And that to me is great, because that shows that sometimes some people are not exploited at their best because of the...
Well, Alessandro is the
exactly,
living proof of that.
It's one of the examples, but I think as well from the management team that I have. Everybody looking from outside was questioning the strategy and the rest, but you know, in our business, it's absolutely true, in any business I think, but especially in fashion, the top roles, CEOs and creative directors are really changing the way in which a big company can be perceived or can be successful. So yes, and also, I mean, I think as well, the beauty of the way in which Alessandro is working is that he's connecting he calls them creative pioneers, looking to people that are particularly creative, especially in the digital space, and asking them to collaborate with him. He did many collaborations with people that were completely unknown before, they became famous afterwards. And if you think about that, and many people are questioning about longevity of Gucci and this kind of thing, because then we can go back to this topic.
About that,
but it's very interesting instead. So if you think about that, leveraging in terms of crowd creativity and getting, in today's world, the possibility that you have to leverage on talent everywhere in the world, despite the fact that they're working for you full-time or not, is something that really opens the possibility for you to grow and change in the way in which you work. Just because you open the brand, that is something else, that is something before was absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, completely.
Open the brand to external views and making them part of the game. So, and then producing the product and putting them in the shop and not doing pop-up that are external to the message of the brand, putting them in the advertising campaign. So it's very much part of the Gucci, but leveraging different competencies. I think is a very modern way to look at branding. It's completely unique, and you can do that only if the creative director has this kind of open mind.
He's open to possibilities.
He's open to possibilities. When I speak to Alessandro, it's never a no. Never. And when we meet each other, we never talk about work. We just talk about many things. Then, when we have a problem, now, of course, at the beginning we were talking about work any single day, because we didn't know exactly where to go. We would fine-tune every single day. But now that it's much clearer what we want to do, why we did it, etc. When we have a problem, there's something that we intersect, we overlap in terms of creative and business. I pick up the phone, he picks up the phone, and we say, no, we have this problem, what do we do? It's always a discussion. It's never, I want that. It's never an imposition. We never impose Alessandro something he doesn't want to do. We never do the same with me. There's a great respect of competence. That is exactly what we're trying to do with all the people. And if we're able to communicate that by example, every single day, the power that we can really create is huge.
I really hope that the whole fashion industry is listening to this, because I believe the relationship between the business and the creativity, the CEO and the creative director, is essential. And as consumers or journalists or where from outside, you can feel it. And we are in an era where designers are becoming a commodity to be hired and fired after one collection. They don't get along with the CEO. They didn't do what the shareholders wanted. I think it's really wrong. So again, you know, you two are a good example of the opposite of this.
Yeah, I think that there are moments where you need to show to certain people, especially creative director, what happened with Alessandro at the beginning. Because as you were mentioning before, the change of aesthetic and culture was so abrupt at the beginning that everybody was questioning. I remember competitors in the first 12 months, they were saying, you know, look,
it will never sell.
That beautiful brand was such a pity, what they did. Yeah. And then the second year, 2016, they saw the first good results. It's not going to last.
Now they're sending you their CV.
Exactly. So, and again, at the beginning, the most important thing for me was to protect Alessandro. To protect Alessandro for the critics, because when you do a change that is so dramatic in a big company like Gucci, everybody's looking at, consumers were not...
How did he feel? I mean, you needed to protect him, but was he self-assured? Was he...
Yeah,
you were telling him, just go?
First of all, he's not a kid. He's a very mature person, and of course that I think it makes a difference. We knew that we were going to face critics because the change was so strong. But on the other side, for a certain point, we stopped looking at to social, because social, they were killing us. They wanted the previous creative director coming back, etc., etc., etc. But what we said is that we don't know yet if it's going to happen, if it's going to be successful or not, because we didn't know. It was something that we felt was the right thing to do, but of course we don't have the crystal ball. I would love to tell you we did exactly what we said from the very beginning. In terms of activities, yes, but in terms of aesthetic communication campaign, etc., was very much something that Alessandro created day after day with his vision, and the fact that I never spoke to him about numbers from the very beginning. Even now, you get bored in a second if I speak about numbers first, and the second, he doesn't need to know about numbers. I mean, now I don't need to know about what he's doing in terms of a collection. He deserved a trust in the last 3 years where he can really try and experiment something new, because you see that he's feeling, and that is something that artificial intelligence will never tell us, what is going to happen. He feels something that is happening in the market. He's looking at the consumer and what's happening in the streets like anybody else.
He has eyes open and ears open. I think the secret is listen and observe.
Exactly. It's very open-minded. That is, to me, is the key. And also, of course, he's a man of a great culture, so linking to the past certain moments, but with no nostalgia. No, it's not a nostalgic way. It's very much reinterpreting previous codes and putting them in a contemporary way. Very passionate about it.
And that when you say we never look at the figures, we never discuss the figures, that's not his job, which I understand. But does that work if it doesn't work? If you see what I mean? Yeah.
In that case, we have a bigger problem. That in the sense that if the figure doesn't work, means that we made some mistakes in terms of strategy, and that. Even if I'm going to talk to him about figures, it's not going to change the framework.
It's still your job to fix it.
It's still my job to fix it, or to change the way in which the strategy was set. Because again, the figures are a consequence of choices from a strategic standpoint, and not vice versa. In the moment in which I need to focus on figures and starting cutting costs, etc., in our industry is a big issue. Yeah. It's a big issue. And when I see CEOs that are focusing on figures, on the small, tiny percentage of the profit and loss, you see that they cannot win. They cannot win.
They say, it's been said that you have an amazing merchandiser as well, that you chose the right person. What is the relationship there? How do you want that to function?
The merchandising is the other person. I mean, the only person that I asked to join me.
From somewhere else.
From somewhere else, and is a specific personality and competence that I think is unique in the industry, because apart knowing the numbers like anybody else in terms of product, he is able to understand with a great taste the creativity of Alessandro. So, and the idea with him is never be, you need me, do me a commercial product. It's never that, but enhance the creativity of Alessandro in a way that is acceptable for a consumer standpoint. So the relation between Alessandro and Jacopo is quite impressive, because they speak the same language, and again, it's something unique. When I say there's a great dose of luck in what we did as well.
That's very humble of you.
No, it's true, because I mean, finding people that are so talented and able to work together in terms of personality, you think that it could happen or could work, but until you see it, really, it's not easy to say and to tell, because I mean, you interview a person for like maybe 2 times or 3 times for half an hour. People that can tell you whatever they like, and they can pretend to be someone else. And so, and making that happen and create this sense of respect between everybody. But I can speak about Jacopo, I can speak about Robert. The way in which they work together with Alessandro, the respect between the competencies and the capability that the team has to enhance the creativity of Alessandro, one from a product standpoint, the other from a communication standpoint, and giving voices to person and kids at 21, 22 years old, working in our digital team, that are free to experiment, of course, always under the umbrella and the control of people that are more seniority, because that is important as well, because seniority is as important as the younger generation, because they've been through many flows of fashion, and they have the capability to give calm to people at a certain moment where maybe something is not going the right direction. So the two things, they need to work together.
I couldn't agree more. So yeah, talking about the young kids, tell me about your shadow executive committee, which I think it's one of the brightest ideas in the industry.
Yeah, the idea was very much to try to start leveraging this cultural aspect from the bottom and not just from the top. And that it happened to be decided like after 18 months, as I told you, because it was the moment for me to listen more to the voices and to scout maybe other talents in the company that were hidden. So the idea was very much to give the voices to people under 30, 32, and try to discuss with them the same topics that was discussed with my management team, and to see if the feedback and the result was different. But apart from that, it was a way to give voices to them, and also to talk to them and to see if everybody was going in the same direction and were able to create even different ideas. The way in which the younger generation is looking at things is very different from our generation. And the beauty of being together, I think, everybody can get the best from the other. Of course, the most senior people, they need to understand that in certain cases, I mean, saying that you are ignorant in the real sense of the word, I think is good, because we cannot know everything, especially now. Our purpose is very much to make sure that these people that are maybe have more ideas, so they know more in terms of competence specific aspect, they can express themselves, and for you to understand if they could be right or not, and to give them voices and to work together. Then you create a team of people that are like black ops, that they work together to solve a problem and outside from the normal daily activity.
But so is it a real committee where people are elected or chosen, and then you meet with them and your top management?
Yeah,
how does it work practically?
At the beginning, I chose them with my HR team, and then the second time we asked the people to appoint the one that they were more. So we're changing all the time. Now we are in a situation with this committee. It's something that we are relating to the culture. The idea is to create because I mean, changing culture is not a mandate, but it's a movement. So we are launching a big project now in terms of creating this, to roll out the cultural project and the values that we try to push in the last 3 years, to making sure that it's something that becomes very natural. It's not just led by the top, but coming from the bottom. So we try to appoint people, younger people that we're going to call the catalyst or ambassador, whatever, that they want that passionately they share the values everywhere in the world, and with examples and try to show the best testimonials of what we are trying to do at corporate level. So so we are having someone else helping from outside. We just created a kind of voices of inspiration of people. For example, Cleo Wade, that is a poet in the US. She's sharing exactly our values, and having someone from outside that is going to speak to our team, pushing in a different way from a poetic standpoint these values and inspiring people. Fantastic. It's not just us doing it, but it's someone else doing it as well. So we always try to have help from some other people that are reflecting what we're trying to do.
And who's finding them? I mean, it's the young people, it's the company people suggest.
Can be the young people. Of course, the communication team is the one that knows more what's happening in the digital arena or in the cultural arena. So they give suggestions, or people that we meet because of our commitment with China for Change or Global Citizen. Yeah. So we miss so many interesting people that share the same value. And I think in today's world as well, because we take stance as a company, it doesn't mean political stance necessarily, but we take stance for certain specific action. I think as well, the moment of the fashion industry where people they didn't take stance in terms of what was happening in the society, I think it's completely finished.
Yes.
If you want to have some values, then even the action that happens in society, you need to cross them together. You cannot just pretend that they're not happening. You just live in your small world. No, and I think it's more and more you go forward, especially for bigger company. You need to take stance, and you need to take risk, and you need to accept the fact that some people, they will not like it, they will leave you. But it's fine.
Fine.
But we are not there to please everybody.
No, exactly.
So it's us. You like it or not, it's part of the tribe, you're not part of the tribe, that is your choice.
Fine. Tell me about the new lab. You were telling me about this new, what is it called? The
Art Lab.
Art Lab.
Yes. Yes, it's a space that we created recently. We opened it like in January. It's 37,000 square meters of a new building that we created where we merged.
In Florence.
In Scandicci, close to Casalina, Florence, of course, where the root of the company is. We blended together the product development and the prototyping of shoes and leather goods, so bags. I think it's the first time in history of fashion that something happened in that way. So we blended the craftsmanship, the artisan, etc., with the most advanced, innovative tools that we could think of in terms of development. So 3D machine or anything that robotic, etc. So blending the emotional intelligence and the artificial intelligence together in order to create synergies between the two product categories that for us represent like 70–75% of our business, so it's a big chunk of the business.
Yeah.
And to us, it could really be the competitive advantage for Gucci going forward, and leaving that for the next leaders for Gucci, I think, because it's something you need, and the more we go forward, the more innovation and creativity and pushing the boundaries should be the way forward. It's not just remaining where we are. So, and we have a space where we buy new technology, like 3D printing, to see if it works, how it could work, just in terms of creativity or in terms of production or product development. So we are very much open, and the person that is managing it, Massimo, is someone, again, very much open-minded, that is traveling all over the world, looking at different industries. We never look at our competitors because I think it's an old industry. Yeah. And instead, if you look at automotive or pharmaceutical or defense industries, they're so much more advanced in many aspects. So if you're able to contaminate a little bit what you're doing in your business, I mean, the leap that you can do is enormous.
You went to Singularity University.
Yeah, yes, for a week.
I was impressed by that because I tried to go some times ago, and I think that's what makes a great leader. You know, being open to different industry and sciences and industrial design and right?
I spent the week there as a student. I mean, that's the beauty.
Did you like it?
I loved it. And I loved it. And then from there, we asked one of them to join us and to have an offsite and to manage and to facilitate with the management team, like with 60 people. This way of working, this way of thinking in terms of organization, in terms of technology.
So you brought one of the professors from there?
One that wrote a beautiful book as well. That it happened that I read it when I was on holiday. I broke my ankle, so I was obliged to read the book. And I was sending the pictures with all my science to my team.
So they were not happy that you were on holiday?
During Christmas, they were complaining about it. At the end, I bought the book for everybody, sent the book to everybody. They were supposed to read it.
What is it called?
Exponential organization.
Okay,
they give you the idea of the way in which we want to grow going forward. But it's not just a matter of revenues and figures, it's very much in terms of possibilities and being open. We don't know what's going to happen to the industry going forward. I think there's going to be some form of aggregation with other industries. It could be music, celebrities, entertainment, media. So something's going to happen because we cannot think that we're going to stay like this forever. The world is changing too fast and too quick. So we need to be open at least to understand what's happening. And I think it's a great way to look at these people. They're amazing speakers, and the beauty of them is that they have different competencies at the same time, the medicine, neurologist, history. So it's like, that is the new way of thinking. It's a so broad imagination. And the fact that I had the chance to being exposed for a week was something exceptional, because you have so many things that you think of, and you stay away a little bit from the daily life and daily activity that's going to kill your creativity at a certain point. So you need to be able as well to think that company goes well without you. And that is something I always tell everybody.
So could you switch off?
Leave the office. Make sure that Gucci will remain. It's not going to change.
But so you went there, and I think they make you experience things physically, right? It's not only lectures.
There are lectures, there's some physical experience. The structure, the quarter is in an old NASA structure. Then you experience many things about virtual reality, 3D, and physical things.
And who were the others? That's interesting. Who
the other participants? There were many.
Nobody from
fashion. Yeah. Nobody from fashion. Nobody from fashion. It's hard because it's now. I enrolled for the Singularity like 6-7 months before, and when you want to do something that's so far away from you, it's going to be cool. It's going to be good. The more you get closer, you say, "Oh my God, why I decided to go and spending 7 days and listening to speak?" And then in reality, you need to forge yourself, and sometimes it's the best way. Try to exit a bit from your comfort zone, where the best things happen. And I know from my entire career that is the moment where I learn. And even doing this kind of interviews, it's not because it's the way for me to talk to people. It's a way for me to think aloud what I do. If there's something maybe it's not feeling, I don't feel that it makes sense, then I can work on it. And maybe you can ask me questions that are not exactly the one that I'm used to answer, and then I can be prepared to something else. It's a learning journey all the time.
But that's why I don't like to send people questions before, and so many people still ask it. I'm like, no, I'm going to follow. I mean, I practically didn't ask you anything. It was here because I follow your. And when you send people questions, then it's their team preparing the answers, and then there's no honesty to it. Yeah. But before I let you go to your very busy life, I have a little question for you. When you started at Gucci, I don't know, the first month, you still had a different creative director. So before, I know you were expecting that from me, but you started and let's name her, Frida was still there, then suddenly one day we read that she left before time. I know you and I have a little idea of what happened, but can you tell us what really happened, or you can't?
I can go on tell in the sense that, I remember that you were commenting it like with Imran, I think?
Yes.
Yeah. And
it had just happened, and I said what I thought.
Yeah, I think you were right. First of all, Frida was supposed to stay until the women's show at the end of February.
So another 2 months, right?
It was doing the men and doing the women. And that to me was good. It was agreed together with François that it made sense to finish the collection. She was there from a long time, so it was a way as well to close in a good way. Let's put it this way, what I learned and what I heard in that period in the design team, the reaction naturally was not exactly positive from her, and also some comments about my leadership and personality.
But she was also married to
with the previous CEO,
the outgoing CEO. So.
And in parallel, I met Alessandro. So the two things together made me think, you know what, I cannot work with someone that doesn't respect me or like what I do. That is fine. I mean, it's part of life. It's part of the business life. So when I met Alessandro and we went through the process of the strategy, we worked together for like 2 weeks during the holidays. So when I came back, I mean, there were 5 days remaining for the main show. And I felt that it was the moment for me to say, you know what, I prefer to make a risk and doing a show in 5 days than wait for 6 months and spending time in a situation that I don't like. I'm too old to stay in an ambience where people don't respect me for any reason, for my fault or for someone else's fault because they took a decision. I mean, I didn't take the decision, I was someone appointed to manage. And, you know, I prefer to take a risk that is a big risk because nobody did a show in 5 days, I think, in history of fashion. But Alessandro was fine with that. I was fine with that, so I spoke to the person, saying, look, I mean, I prefer to stop it now than going forward. And, you know, I think at the end, it's been the right decision because Alessandro in 5 days didn't have too much time to think. He really brought forward what he had in mind without thinking too much.
But only a machine as big as yours could produce.
Absolutely. Again, what we said before, I mean, the Gucci power is in any aspect. So all the artists and the product development that they worked for Alessandro to produce the collection in 5 days was a huge effort, but the result was quite astonishing. And again, I remember the night before the show, Alessandro called me and he showed me the looks of the collection, and he asked, what do you think? And my take was, you need to go extreme. So I was picking the one that more extreme. I knew that we were not going to sell because the message needed to be clear. I didn't care about sales.
Oh, it was clear, I can tell you.
It was very, no, but we needed, exactly, it was exactly, and in fact, in that collection, versus the previous season, we lost 50% of the business, 5-0. But that was not the reason why we needed to change it to become so-called commercial. We really need to be super focused to give a message that was absolutely clear. And then from there we started to build around the collection and the aesthetic and the codes and the value and the colors and the texture and all the rest.
Well, I think that was the best risk you've ever taken in your career.
Of course, no doubt.
Thank you so much
for
being with us.
Thank you.